Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and today I want to talk about the prospect of something most people didn't really think would happen. I'm talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, at this point, we thought we'd probably all have heard about the Nintendo Switch 2 in September. It's October. October's over. Still not heard anything. Well, what if I told you we're not going to hear anything this year? I think it's feasible and plausible that we will not. Will we hear about it in January? No, I genuinely don't think so. I think it is likely going to be February or even March before we hear anything about Nintendo Switch 2. Now, Nintendo has said that they do plan to reveal something before the end of the fiscal year, which ends at the end of March. So we've got any time from now until the end of March for Nintendo to live up to that promise. But there's no guarantee Nintendo will even live up to that promise. Maybe they've had delays in the background. Maybe they're doing something else. Who knows? But it's feasible that Nintendo will announce the Nintendo Switch 2 in February or March. Why? Well, historically, Nintendo has always released their consoles round about September, October, November time. If you look at the Switch has been the exception. And the reason the Switch was an exception is because of how poorly performing the Wii U was. Nintendo knew they had to get something out and they had to get it out fast. Generally, Nintendo will announce consoles somewhere between March and June. If you remember how E3 used to be, we used to get reveals there all the time from Nintendo and other companies, and then they'd release in September, October, November. If you look at the Wii U, that was November. If you look at the Wii, that was November. If you look at the GameCube, that was, I think, September. Same with the N64, Super Nintendo. The Japanese NES was a little bit different. That was July. However, the North American European releases wasn't July. They were later on. So historically, for a Western release, which many do consider to be a globalized release, it is always between September and November. And that would seem reasonable that Nintendo Switch 2 will come out September 2025. Is that a reasonable date? Yes, I do think it is. I think the Nintendo Switch 2 will land September 2025, which means we'll have 6 months worth of promotion for Nintendo to do before that. And that is a good build-up for Nintendo. Think about it. Why would Nintendo want to announce the Switch 2 now and release it in April? The Nintendo Switch 2 will not come out this fiscal year, no matter what anyone says, no matter what any insider says, it will not come out this fiscal year, which means we will not have it in our hands before March 31st, 2025. It will absolutely not happen. Now, the original Switch was announced and then released a few months later. Same with any other console. So does that mean that if Nintendo Switch 2 gets announced right now, it'll come out in March? No, it absolutely won't. It won't even be announced until February or March. It makes sense for Nintendo to just keep quiet for the rest of this year, work in the background, get all their promotional material set up, ready to go for the new fiscal year. Think about it. Yes, they have very, very limited releases on the Switch from now until the end of this fiscal year, but they don't want to jeopardize it. They don't want to risk anything, not being sold or anything like that. They want to sell as many Switch systems as they can before they drop the bombshell of Nintendo Switch 2. So for me, and from a financial standpoint, it does not make sense for Nintendo to announce the Switch 2 right now. Not next month, not until February or March. Now, I know a lot of the comments are going to say, Jimmy, you don't know what you're talking about. You're talking absolute rubbish. Of course it's going to be announced soon. Well, here's my pledge to you. If I'm wrong and it is not announced in February and it's announced before that, please come back to this video and tell me I'm wrong. I will hold my hands up and tell me I'm wrong. And I know you'll do that. Those of you who disagree with what I'm saying now, you'll be back here. If Nintendo announce it in November, you'll be back here to say you were wrong. Ha ha ha, this video aged terribly. And, hands up, fair enough. But this is all just my opinion. However, if Nintendo do indeed announce it in February or March, those of you who are right now saying, oh, Jimmy, you're wrong, you won't come back to tell me that I was right. You'll be hanging your head in shame. You'll be walking away with your tail between your legs. I jest. At the end of the day, I'm not an insider. I've said it many times. I'm just a guy who looks at things, looks at numbers, takes everything into consideration and makes a judgment based on that, an opinion, if you will. And yes, I get comments all the time saying, you don't know what you're talking about. But you know what? I'm going to rub it in some of your faces when I'm right on some of these things. Like, for example, when I said that Final Fantasy IX is going to be a Switch exclusive, a Switch 2 exclusive, I stand by that. And when it comes to something like Resident Evil 9 being open world, well, you know, we have seen the rumours, but I don't think it will be open world like what you think it will. Anyway, this video was all about Nintendo Switch 2, and yes, we will get some Resident Evils on Switch 2, I can guarantee it. Resident Evil 9, not sure. But either way, the timeline for Nintendo Switch 2 makes sense to be announced in February, March, released in September 2025 with a good 6 months promotional material. Plenty of time for Nintendo to build stock up, plenty of time to avoid all those scalpers, and plenty of time for Nintendo to rake it in, because they will. The Nintendo Switch 2 is going to sell like hotcakes. Trust me on that one, trust me. Anyway, when do you think Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be announced? Do you think it's right of me to say that it will be February or March? Or do you think we will indeed see it before the end of 2024? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.